I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and for the past 5 years I thought I had a pretty good marriage with my wife, Lisa. We met in college, got married pretty young, and honestly, I always thought we were solid. Sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, but I never suspected anything seriously wrong. Or at least, I didn't want to believe I did. Our anniversary was yesterday. I booked us a fancy dinner at that new place downtown, the one with the rooftop view and the expensive wine list. I wanted to do something special. Lisa seemed excited, even a little more flirtatious than usual. She was dressed to kill, as always, with that smirk that I used to think was adorable. We took pictures, got some drinks, and had a good time until I started noticing little things that I probably should have seen earlier but somehow didn't. For starters, she was unusually distant after dinner. I caught her glancing at her phone a lot more than usual. I remember asking her about her day, and she brushed me off quick, saying she was tired or had some work stuff to deal with later. But what really threw me off was when I went to the bathroom and saw her purse on the table. I had this weird gut feeling like something was off, so I casually reached into her bag when she was in the bathroom. No big deal, right? Just trying to see if there was anything out of place. That's when I saw it. Her phone was unlocked and there were messages. Not just playful texts, but outright flirty, suggestive stuff. I saw a string of messages from a guy named Jake, my best friend Ryan's friend from college. They were talking about how hot Lisa looked that night, how she was still the same bitchy girl but with that spark I recognized. Then there were pictures, lots of pictures. Her topless in some hotel room, smiling like she was having the time of her life. I stared at them in disbelief, my stomach twisting so hard it felt like I'd thrown up inside. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me, with my best friend, on our anniversary. I felt numb like I'd been punched. In the gut. All those years of trust, all those moments we shared just shattered in a second. And how had I been so blind? Was I stupid? Or did I just refuse to see the signs? I don't even know anymore. All I knew was that I had to confront her, and I had no idea what I was going to say or do next. I didn't even bother to put her phone back where I found it. My hands were trembling, but I managed to slip it back into her purse without her noticing. The whole world felt like it was tilting. I went back into the restaurant trying to act normal, but my mind was racing. I kept replaying those messages, those photos, and the way she'd been acting all night. It was like a bad dream I was waiting to wake up from. When we got home, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I told her I needed to talk, and she looked at me with that fake, innocent smile she always had when she was trying to hide something. I remember her saying, "What's wrong, Mike? Did something happen at the restaurant? You've been acting weird all night." Her voice was sweet, almost mocking, like she thought I was overreacting. But I knew what I'd seen. I took a deep breath and showed her the messages on my phone. The look on her face was priceless, that instant of panic, then that forced laugh she always used when she knew she was caught. She tried to deny it first, said it was all a misunderstanding, that Jake was just joking around, that it meant nothing. She insisted they were just friends, that they'd been talking like that forever and I was overreacting. That she loved me, that I was the only one for her, and I'd ruined everything with my crazy accusations. But I didn't believe her. Not anymore. I felt so angry, so betrayed. How could she lie like that? After all the years, all the plans we made, she had the nerve to pretend nothing was happening. I looked at her with disgust, and for the first time I saw her for what she really was, another manipulative, selfish bitch who only cared about her own pleasure. I told her I needed some space, and that I didn't know what I was going to do. She just shrugged, said she was sorry but it didn't matter because she didn't mean to hurt me, and then she started crying, acting like she was the victim. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just about the affair. It was about respect, about trust. And she'd shattered both of those in one night. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of confusion, anger, and sadness. I looked at her, standing there, crying fake tears, and I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I had to decide whether to forgive her, to fix this somehow, or to walk away for good. But deep down, I knew the truth. This betrayal had broken me in a way I never thought possible. In the days that followed, everything felt numb. I kept replaying that night, those images, that fake smile she put on when I confronted her. Every time I tried to sleep, her face would flash in my mind, along with Jake's messages and her lies. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew deep down I was done. I couldn't trust her again, not. After that, I started noticing more things, little signs that she thought I didn't see. She stopped wearing my shirts around the house, was more secretive with her phone, and she'd get defensive whenever I asked where she was or who she was with. I'd catch her lying about where she'd been, saying she was running errands, but her hair was different or she smelled like perfume from some other guy. It was like she was deliberately trying to hide what she was doing. One afternoon, I decided I'd had enough. I needed to see if she was really cheating or if I just lost my mind. So I set up a little hidden camera in our living room, not to spy exactly, but to catch her if she was sneaking someone over or on her phone. Of course, I felt like a complete ass doing it, but I couldn't stand the idea of being played for a fool anymore. I waited, heart pounding, and sure enough, days later, she came home late in the evening, smelling of booze, wearing different clothes, suspiciously giggly with her phone in her hand. That's when I saw her message again, this time. A text from Jake saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." Babe, she called him that like he was her real boyfriend, and she wasn't alone. I watched her slip into her bedroom, lock the door, and then I saw her start stripping, smiling like she was on some kind of high. I felt my stomach drop to my feet. I'd been right all along. She'd been lying, sneaking around, and worse, she was actually doing sex with him. I was furious. My mind was racing, trying to come up with what to do next. I couldn't just let her keep lying, keep betraying me like this. I decided I had to confront her again, but this time with everything in my hands. I went into the bedroom, knocked on the door, and told her I knew what she'd been doing. She opened the door, saw the look on my face, and instantly went into damage control mode. She was bitchy, defiant, trying to spin some bullshit about how I'd misunderstood, how Jake was just a friend, how she was trying to find herself, and that I was overreacting. She threw in some sob story about how she felt neglected, how I ignored her feelings, how she just needed a little excitement. Her words were coming fast, but I couldn't even hear her anymore. I was too angry, too hurt. I told her I'd seen enough, that I was done listening to her lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was how she'd smiled in those pictures, how she'd laughed and acted like she was so happy. Meanwhile, I was crying in the bathroom, feeling like I'd been stupid, blind, or maybe just too in love to see what was right in front of me. I wondered how she could lie so easily, how she could pretend she loved me when she was sleeping with my best friend. The betrayal cut so deep it felt like a wound that would never heal. But in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I had to make her pay for this. I couldn't let her get away with it. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep, and honestly, I kept going over everything in my head. I kept asking myself if I was just too naive, too stupid to see what was happening right under my nose. Every time I thought about her lying, laughing, and pretending everything was normal, I felt this burning rage inside. It was like she'd stolen my life, my trust, and my dignity, and I had no idea how to get it back. One morning, I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to come home and spin more lies. I had to do something. I started planning my revenge. I didn't want to just walk away and let her win. No, I needed her to know exactly what she'd lost. I wanted her to feel the same pain she'd inflicted on me, maybe even more. So I pulled out every trick I knew, every bit of patience I had, and I started executing a plan. First, I gathered all the evidence I had, screenshots of her messages, photos, the recordings from the hidden camera. That stuff was going into a safe folder, just in case I needed it later. Then I decided to confront her again, but this time, I was prepared to make her see what I saw. I waited until she got home that evening and I was ready. She walked in, trying that same bitchy, fake smile she perfected, but I didn't let her fool me anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew everything, about Jake, about the hotel, about her sneaking around behind my back. Her eyes widened for a second, then she tried to deny everything, but I cut her off. I told her I had proof, and I wasn't interested in her excuses. I said I wanted answers and I wanted the truth, no matter how ugly it was. She snapped then, her voice rising, trying to get defensive. She called me paranoid, jealous, insecure. Said I was overreacting, that she loved me, that she'd never cheat on me. But I wasn't buying her anymore. I told her that her lies and her sneaky behavior had crossed every boundary I thought we had. I said I wasn't sure if I wanted to save this marriage or just burn it all down, but one thing was clear. I was done being a fool. She looked at me with that venomous little smirk, like she knew she had some kind of control. But I saw through it. I could see the small cracks forming. In her facade, the way her eyes flickered when she realized I wasn't going to back down. That was the moment I decided that I'd take control of this mess. I told her to pack her bags, that I was done pretending everything was fine. I wanted her out of my house, out of my life. She started crying, but not because she was sorry. It was that fake, manipulative crying she always used when she was losing control. I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I'd be calling a lawyer the next day, that she'd better get ready to face the consequences of her lies and betrayal. I felt a strange mixture of relief and rage, knowing I was finally taking back some power. But underneath it all, I was devastated. I had loved her, trusted her, and she'd thrown it all away for some quick sex with my best friend. That betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure I'd ever recover from it. The morning after I kicked her out, I felt like I'd been hit by a train. The house felt emptier than ever, and her absence left this huge void I couldn't fill. I sat in the living room, staring at the empty space where she had once sat, trying to process everything. The lies, the betrayal, the cruel way she'd played me like a fool. I kept thinking about all the times I'd trusted her, all the moments I'd thought we had something real, now reduced to ashes. I called my lawyer that morning. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew I had to protect myself. I started paperwork to get a divorce, and honestly, part of me felt relief. I didn't want a life full of lies and secret rendezvous. I wanted out. I wanted to be free from this toxic, suffocating web she'd spun around me. Still, I couldn't deny the ache in my chest, the ache of betrayal that would never truly go away. As I sat there, sipping coffee in silence, I reflected on everything I'd learned. Trust is fragile. Love is easy to break if you're not careful. And some people, no matter how much they pretend to care, are just selfish and manipulative. Lisa was one of those people. She was good at lying, at pretending she was innocent, but I saw her for what she truly was, a bitch who used her charm and her lies to manipulate everyone around her, including me. In the days that followed, I started focusing on myself. It wasn't easy. There were moments I felt like breaking down, crying or screaming, but I held it together. I realized I had been so caught up in trying to make everything perfect that I ignored the warning signs. I should have seen her cheating, should have noticed how distant she was getting. But I was blind, or maybe just too in love to see the truth. Now I knew better, and I swore I'd never let anyone do this to me again. Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever fully get over the pain. The betrayal cut so deep it's like a permanent scar. But I've learned something important. I deserve someone who respects me, who values honesty and loyalty. I don't want to be with someone who smiles in photos while I cry in the bathroom. I want to build a life based on trust, not lies. So I'm starting over, one step at a time. And maybe someday I'll find someone who actually cares about me the way I care about them. For now, I just focus on healing and making sure no one ever hurts me like this again. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was to believe that love alone could keep us together through everything. Lisa was good at pretending, at twisting every story to her advantage, but in the end, her true colors came out. I've spent weeks trying to piece myself back together, trying to rebuild what was broken, and honestly, it's been one of the hardest things I've ever done. Every day I wake up, I remember what she did, and it still stings. But I also remind myself that I'm better off without her. I've learned that trusting someone blindly can ruin you. That sometimes, the people you care about the most can turn into complete strangers when they think no one's watching. I should have seen the signs earlier, but I was too blinded by love and hope. Now I know better. I see the importance of listening to that gut feeling, no matter how small or insignificant it seems. The truth always finds a way to come out, and no amount of lies can cover it forever. What I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar is trust your instincts. Don't ignore the little red flags, and don't be afraid to confront the truth even if it's ugly. Because living in denial is worse than facing the pain. It's better to be hurt for a moment than to spend your life living a lie. As for me, I'm slowly learning to let go of the anger and disappointment. I know I'll heal eventually. I've started focusing on myself, my health, my future, my new boundaries. I don't regret loving her. I only regret not seeing the signs sooner. Now I see things clearly, and I refuse to settle for less than what I deserve. This experience has taught me a hard lesson about loyalty, about respect, and about the importance of self-worth. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also forces you to grow. I don't know what's next for me, but I know I won't be stupid again. I'll be smarter, tougher, and more cautious, because the pain of this betrayal has made me realize how precious true trust really is. And I'll never let anyone take that away from me again.